This year, we saw very exciting developments. Songhua Street, with 10,000 new homes in the east, which is situated in the east of Pyongyang, was completed, and people started to move in, and also the new residences, I think 800 in all, on the banks of the river Pothong in Pyongyang were constructed, and these were very smart homes, which were given free of charge to people like labour innovators and people who worked very hard, and some of the new residents of these new homes were in fact people like bus drivers, even a street cleaner in the DPRK. It made me think quite a lot, because in our own societies, bourgeois societies, that is a job that is looked down upon quite a lot. I remember as a young child being told that I must learn to read, otherwise I would have to be a street cleaner when I grew up, as if this was a really terrible thing. But in people's career, this is seen as equal to any other job and profession, and as I say, you can win medals and awards and titles for doing it. But anyways, the new housing in the DPRK wasn't just in Pyongyang. If you watch the videos, if you follow KCNA, you will see also a lot of farming areas. New housing has been built using new designs, varied designs, so they don't always all look the same. And this housing has been given to farmers free of charge. And this has been carried out in quite a few farm villages. It was part of the program announced at the 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea in January.
Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. This is the last video of the year. This year has been quite a crazy year. A lot of positive and a lot of negative things in the news this year. But when it comes to the DPRK, North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, there have been massive achievements over the past year. The media lies so much about North Korea and the socialist system there, and the reason they lie so ridiculously is precisely because they have to hide the achievements of the country in developing socialism. And over this past year, the DPRK North Korea has made massive achievements in many fields, but you don't hear about it in the Western press. And today we have a returning guest who you've seen before on the channel, and you've probably seen his work. Dr. Dermot Hudson of the Korean Friendship Association UK, who has done excellent work to get the truth out about North Korea and the situation, the history of Korea and everything. And you can find his work on YouTube on the channel Songun007, and on Twitter you can find his account as Juche0071. And also check out the Korean Friendship Association of the UK, KFA UK. And yeah, he's a returning guest. We had him on before, and I'm sure you all learned a tremendous amount about Juche and the DPRK last time. So today we're going to be discussing, as we get to the end of this year, we're going to be discussing the achievements of North Korea over the past year. Welcome, comrade, back to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm very, very well, thank you. Quite busy. I mean, been a very busy year for KFA. We held the international meeting in November. And let me say, it's great to be back on Flame of Liberation. Thank you for inviting me back.
Absolutely. And yeah, I couldn't really think of, there are few people who are as informed as you are in the West and keep up very up to date on the developments in the DPRK. And so I think people are going to learn a tremendous amount about what's been going on in the DPRK over the past year. One of the fields where from what I understand, the DPRK has achieved a tremendous amount, and it's something that I think people around the world would find a lot of interest in, and they could compare DPRK's achievement in this field to their own country's achievement. It is the field of COVID and fighting against the COVID-19. How has the DPRK dealt with COVID-19 over the past year?
Well, COVID-19 became a very big issue in the DPRK because previously no cases of COVID-19 were detected in the DPRK for a very long time because the DPRK closed its borders in January 2020. So there was no cases of COVID-19. However, in May, it became apparent that COVID-19 had infiltrated into the DPRK in late April, and quite a large number of cases were recorded. It should be pointed out here that COVID-19 was deliberately spread into People's Korea by the South Korean puppets, by the US imperialists, and by so-called defectors residing in South Korea, who sent balloons into the DPRK, which contained articles that had been smeared with COVID-19 germs, and an outbreak of COVID-19 occurred in a small village near to the military demarcation line with South Korea, and that spread throughout the country. So a very serious situation arose, and Marshal Kim Jong-un, he called meetings of the party leadership bodies and the government and the Central Military Commission to take immediate action, and the DPRK went over onto a complete lockdown, and also medics from the Korean People's Army were mobilized to assist people and to assist in delivering medicines, and people were supplied with medicines and food. And at first the imperialists predicted disaster. They were talking about millions of deaths in the DPRK, which is what they hoped for, because they wanted to see mass deaths in the DPRK in the hope that it would cause unrest and it would topple the socialist system in the DPRK. But that didn't happen because of the resolute action taken by the DPRK government, by the People's Government, and by the leadership of the Workers' Party, guided by Marshal Kim Jong-un. And by the end of July, no new COVID cases were being registered in the DPRK. And in the middle of August, a conference of emergency workers was held in the DPRK, and it was declared that COVID-19 had been eliminated. And that was achieved in the space of 90 days. Now, you compare that with a lot of countries in the world where nearly 3 years later, they're still battling COVID-19, they've still got new cases. And I think one very, very significant, well, there's a number of significant things here. But one thing I noticed, DPRK was not only able to eliminate COVID-19, it didn't suffer some of the effects that a lot of countries have suffered. I don't know what the situation was like in the US, but in the UK, some businesses basically folded because of COVID-19. Near where I live, there are businesses that closed during COVID-19, never to open again. But this didn't happen in the DPRK, and everything is back to normal. The economy is progressing. Everything is open and running. And I think the other very significant achievement, and one that the imperialists really hate, is that the DPRK coped with the COVID-19 pandemic and eliminated COVID-19 by its own efforts without imperialist aid. And significantly, I don't want to get into the controversy over things. Significantly, the DPRK was able to overcome COVID without imperialist vaccines, the vaccines produced by Big Pharma. They were able to do it without them. But, the main thing is that they rejected aid from the US imperialists and from the South Korean puppets and dealt with the situation through self-reliance. And I think that is such a great achievement. And it's an example to the world, and it's an example particularly to the oppressed countries of the third world who are still under imperialist domination and control. And I think, that it's an example of what they could do if they broke free from imperialist domination, took the road of independence, the road of duce.
Yes, absolutely. And, listening to how you described the situation where you live in the UK, and I have to say, in the United States, it was very similar. We saw COVID sort of a massive redistribution of wealth upward towards the ruling class. And it's funny because anti-communists, anti-socialists often like to talk about, redistribution of wealth is socialism. But they do redistribution of wealth all the time. The problem is they do it upwards towards the elites, the richest of the rich. And that's what happened in the capitalist countries. Many small businesses went under, and basically these huge corporations took over much bigger share of the market. And it was the same thing in the US, really. But like you said, in the DPRK, with a human-based system, socialism, a system that's designed to benefit the people and not put the profits of the 1%, the capitalist class first, they're able to achieve tremendous things in this field. And like you just described, you see the results of what socialism can do. But there are so many fields which the DPRK has achieved in. I wonder if you could talk a little about the achievement within the field of self-defense, because as you sort of alluded to, and I think most people who know about or somewhat aware of the situation in Korea understand that the DPRK is under massive threat from Western imperialism, particularly from the United States. The U.S. is constantly trying to overthrow the government of the DPRK, constantly doing these military exercises near the border of the DPRK and really threatening the DPRK constantly. And the fact that North Korea is able to defend itself and stand till this day for so long against world hegemony is a major achievement. So I wonder if you can talk a little about North Korea's military and defense achievements over the past year.
Yes, of course. As you rightly said, threats to the DPRK from US imperialism is massive. And this year has seen the advent of a new far-right fascist regime in South Korea, which has stepped up the anti-DPRK movement. So you've had a lot of military exercises held in South Korea with the US and South Korea, and some of these have been nuclear war simulations. So the threat is very real. And also Japan, who, you know, many people do not realize is an imperialist power, that is also expanding its armed forces and increasing its defense expenditure, and it's adopted a new so-called national security strategy, which includes preemptive strikes. So, you know, the DPRK is not a state that is going to fold its arms and do nothing. And it was decided early in the year that the DPRK would resume previously suspended activities, notably tests of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and a test of the new type ICBM, the Hwasong 17, was carried out in March, and then another test was carried out recently in November. And these were very significant tests because it was the first time since 2017 the DPRK had tested long-range ballistic missiles. And the significance was that these missiles can indeed hit the US mainland. So that was a very striking development. It's one that's upset the US imperialists quite a lot, and you know they were trying to railroad resolutions through the UN, more sanctions through the UN Security Council, and in the end resulted to unilateral sanctions on the DPRK, and also getting their puppets and vassal states to impose sanctions on the DPRK. But I think the fact that the US is doing this, you know, demonstrates the great advances that the DPRK have made in missile technology. And of course, these advances have been achieved with 100% domestic DPRK resources and materials. And that's why the sanctions against the DPRK will not work. You know, however many sanctions the US and its lackeys may impose on the DPRK. And it's also worth pointing out, you know, there's been other advances in the field of self-defense, like the test of a military reconnaissance satellite last weekend, and also earlier in the year, the test of a hypersonic missile. All these are greatly enhancing the DPRK's national defense capacity and basically securing the DPRK's sovereignty and independence, as well as peace on the Korean Peninsula and in the entire Asia Pacific region.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that the DPRK is well known for around the world. The fact that it will not take anyone messing with them. They will not allow any country to infringe on their sovereignty. And the way that's portrayed in the West is in a very dishonest way to make the DPRK, North Korea, out to be like some crazy country that's just aggressive. They always try and frame it as if it's aggression, but no, it's right within the country's borders. It's right within Korea. They're defending themselves. It's not like the United States, which has gone all the way across the world to Korea and is occupying Korea. What they're doing is defensive, and the U.S. has continuously infringed on the borders, sent in helicopters and various spy ships and such that the DPRK has captured. And so the way it's portrayed in the West is a very dishonest. It's very dishonest, and they try and make it seem as though the country's crazy or something. But around most of the world, especially around the third world, it's viewed much more accurately, and people know very well that what the DPRK is doing is defensive. Because it's so obvious. The United States is the one that's gone in and attacked so many countries around the world. You know, the list is too long to even list, but it's so clear that it's just another example of the United States government trying to topple an independent government, a socialist government, and it's a complete failure. As you laid out, you know, this is a continued policy that the United States has been doing ever since the founding of the DPRK, and it's continuously failed, and it will continue to fail in large part because of the DPRK's self-reliance. These sanctions that the U.S. puts on the country, they're not going to achieve the intended outcome because the DPRK is able to, through its own efforts, defend itself. So, yeah, the achievements of North Korea within the field of defense is very quite substantial. But on another field where I think they've really been effective over the past year has been within housing. And when we look at what the DPRK, North Korea, has achieved over the past year, it's because of socialism. And when we compare it to like housing within capitalist countries in the US, and I'm sure the UK, it's the same. There's massive issues of homelessness, and it's getting worse, especially COVID-19. But even before then, it was a terrible situation. But now it's even worse. But the DPRK, despite all the sanctions, despite everything, has achieved a lot over the past year when it comes to housing. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, the housing situation in North Korea?
This year, we saw very exciting developments. Songhua Street, with 10,000 new homes in the east, which is situated in the east of Pyongyang, was completed, and people started to move in, and also the new residencies, I think 800 in all, on the banks of the river Potong in Pyongyang were constructed, and these were very smart homes, which were given free of charge to people like labour innovators and people who worked very hard, and some of the new residents of these new homes were in fact people like bus drivers, even a street cleaner in the DPRK, who is actually very famous for her hard work. She has different merits, different titles, and this is because she has done her job very well and has inspired others. But she's, is actually a street cleaner, and it made me think quite a lot, because in our own societies, bourgeois societies, that is a job that is looked down upon quite a lot. I remember as a young child being told that I must learn to read, otherwise I would have to be a street cleaner when I grew up, as if this was a really terrible thing. But in people's career, this is seen as equal to any other job and profession, and as I say, you can win medals and awards and titles for doing it. But anyway, sort of coming back to the main subject, you know, the new housing in the DPRK wasn't just in Pyongyang. If you watch the videos, if you follow KCNA, you will see also a lot of farming areas. New housing has been built using new designs, varied designs, so you know they don't always all look the same. And this housing has been given to farmers free of charge. And this has been carried out in quite a few farm villages. You know, it was part of the program announced at the 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea in January 2021, but also the program for rural areas that was announced by Marshal Kim Jong-un at the 4th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. But as you pointed out, Nick, the great achievement here is all this is being done not in ideal conditions, but under conditions of intense sanctions, which have been steadily intensified over the past 10 years. And the DPRK has been able to carry out this housing construction by its own efforts, and it is still going ahead. There are another 10,000 new homes under construction in the Hwasong area of Pyongyang, and there's still construction going on in you know, some of the farming villages in the DPRK. And the DPRK constructs some new streets through sort of all people projects where, you know, everybody turns out to lend a hand and give support to construction workers, like supplying them with hot drinks and food and so on. So it's something that the DPRK attaches a lot of importance to and takes great pride in.
For the audience, for people who might not be familiar, these houses that are being built, these massive projects for more houses, in the DPRK, the socialist system, housing is free for the people. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Which is amazing for people within the US or UK, in a Western capitalist country, to imagine free housing. And it's not like, you know, a lot of times when the Western media likes to talk about socialist countries, maybe they'll acknowledge that there's stuff provided by the government, but they'll try and say, oh, they'll give you a house, but it's ugly, it's garbage, blah, blah, blah. But if you see these homes, these are very nice. They're well designed. They're nice. They're not some cheap houses the way they try and make them out to be in the West. Is that your understanding of it as well?
That's what you say is absolutely true. And the DPRK is putting a lot of effort into architecture and training architects and creating new design for houses all the time. And the latest construction projects that we completed in Pyongyang had a number of new designs. And you know, they you know, show variety. They look very good. They look nice. And similarly, the designs in rural areas, you know, they look really splendid. I mean, capitalist countries not only produce homelessness, you know, homeless, but also some very bad housing. You know, it's not just a matter that you pay a lot of money, but often, you know, I mean, I don't know about American homes, but you know, a lot of homes in Britain are, you know, full of mold. You know, in fact, there was a case you can find easily on the internet, where a small kid died from an illness caused by inhaling all the mold in the home, you know, the landlord did with. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. You know, the bourgeois media have got a very dismissive attitude. You know, in fact, incredibly dismissive. You know, saying, "Oh, yeah, it's free, but it's not good," because you know, if you know, if they put, you know, looked nearer to home, they would see stuff that is uh, not free, that costs a lot of money, and it's not very good at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's amazing. And people can look for themselves at the recent construction within North Korea. I remember there's a video I actually took excerpts from a mainstream media, imperialist media, corporate media, CNN, American CNN outlet. They did a documentary on North Korea. They sent someone to North Korea and they filmed, and there was a lot of propaganda in it, but there were some parts where a little bit of truth came out. Like they admitted like North Korea's economic achievements. This is some years back. This is on 2017, but they filmed and they showed and they said how they were showing a particular street of buildings that were just built in record time, very quickly in North Korea. And they mentioned that, and they showed the buildings, and these are nice buildings. These are not some cheap, ugly houses or whatever. This is high quality stuff they're building. And again, as we went over, under very difficult conditions, extreme sanctions, constant threat of war where they have to spend a significant amount of money for defense. So the fact that they're able to provide this to their people is a massive, massive achievement. It's really incredible, and it shows what socialism can do, even in such difficult circumstances. But the overall economy as well has been doing quite well for the past year. Again, most of what we're going to be saying is going to run completely contrary to what people, if they don't know about the DPRK North Korea, what we're saying is going to sound very surprising to a lot of people. But if you look at the facts, this is all true. And can you talk a little bit about the economic and agricultural achievements of North Korea over the past year?
Right. Well, Master Kim Jong-un has stressed regional development to build up local areas, regions, and counties in the DPRK. So a number of new factories were constructed in the Kimwa area of the DPRK, which to serve as a model. So many local areas have been building factories. There's now in several different parts of the country oxygen factories serving the health service have been built. Several new farms have been built in the DPRK as well. In his speech to the fourth plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, Master Kim Jong-un put forward this program for socialist rural construction, you know, to concentrate on the issue of rural areas. And as I said previously, there's been a lot of housing construction taking place, but also a lot of efforts to modernize agriculture. You know, the DPRK has upgraded the tractor industry. You know, for many years it had its own tractor industry, the famous Chalima tractors. I mean, that goes right back to the 1950s. But in the last couple of years, they started turning out more powerful tractors, 80 horsepower tractors, as opposed to the Chilema tractors, which I believe were about 28 horsepower. So you've got now very powerful tractors serving DPRK agriculture. And in the early autumn of this year, workers in the munitions industry actually, instead of produce for a given period, instead of producing munitions, actually produced agricultural equipment like new type rice harvesting machines and so on. And a big ceremony took place in the DPRK rural area, where these machines were handed over to the farms, and you know, they played an important part in further modernising agriculture, and so in many areas, I believe agricultural output has risen. But basically, agriculture is undergoing modernisation, you know, with bigger and better machines being supplied all the time. And I would just sort of, you know, perhaps a slight digression here, sort of make the point that in the DPRK, you have genuine socialist agriculture. A lot of farms are cooperative farms, you know, similar to collective farms in other countries. And there are also some state farms, you know, which are all equal property. And the DPRK, the farm machinery stations are state-owned. They didn't go down the route that the Soviet Union went down in Khrushchev of breaking up the motor tractor station and transferring machinery and selling it to the collective farms. In DPRK, there's still state ownership of the farm machinery stations, which I think is very good. But, you know, to come back to the point, you know, both industry and agriculture in the DPRK are rapidly developing.
Yeah, and I find that very interesting how you described how the military got involved in this, and that's why that's one reason why it's called the Korean People's Army.
Yes.
When was the time, you know, an imperialist army did something like that? The imperialist armies, they exist to carry out aggression and to basically enrich the military-industrial complex of the local country. But that I find very interesting that the military is put to work like that to help improve the lives of the people. So everything we've gone over has been due to the self-reliance of the country and the socialist system of the country. And in our previous talk where we talked about Juche and the history of the DPRK, one of the aspects that we talked about was the ideological struggle and the political work which is necessary to maintain socialism and maintain the revolutionary politics of the Revolutionary Party. Could you talk a bit about the achievements when it came to the ideological work, political work in the country over the past year of 2022?
Right. Well, the campaign against non-socialist and anti-socialist ideology and practices is ongoing. That was started to be stressed around 2019 and 2020, and it was also emphasised at the 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. This year, we've seen a sort of stepping up of what is referred to in the DPRK as anti-imperialist class education. You know, they've actively sort of revived strong slogans against US imperialism, and the work of education against US imperialism has been stepped up. With people, you know, that people have been actively visiting what are called class education centres, class education halls. DPRK has lots of these in Pyongyang. Near to the Fatherland Liberation Wall, there is the Central Class Education Hall, and of course, which is and also, you know, it's probably known to many visitors to the DPRK. You've got the Sinchon anti-US Museum, you know, the place where 35,383 people were killed by the US during the Fatherland Liberation War. You've got that, which is basically not simply a memorial, but an anti-US education centre, and people have been stepping up visits to it. And, you know, in a lot of places, you know, there exist these special halls for class education. And in fact, you know, I was watching some of the videos in Korean language, which showed, you know, these halls in different localities like Kaesong, just to mention one place, I think Nampo City, to mention another, where people go and learn about the crimes committed by US imperialism and also Japanese imperialism. Let's not forget Japanese imperialism, and also class enemies like landlords and capitalists. And it was the landlords and capitalists who collaborated with the US imperialists during the Fatherland Liberation War, or Korean War as it's known in the West. And, you know, these collaborators, together with the US, carried out horrendous crimes. So the DPRK does not forget those crimes, doesn't brush them under the carpet, but it actively educates its people about them and about the nature of imperialism, capitalism, and exploitation. And it's like you said, this seems to have been stepped up quite a lot this year. And in October, respected Master Kim Jong-un, the General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, he gave an important lecture to the Central Cadres Training School of the Workers' Party of Korea, which did include a mention of the need for the continued struggle against anti-socialist and non-socialist ideology, and also against counter-revolutionary and opportunist ideologies. So, you know, I can say, you know, in my opinion, that the Workers' Party of Korea truly has its finger on the pulse, and it has a clear idea of who the enemy is, and it is fully educating its people about them, about the enemy.
Yeah, that's extremely important because, again, one of the things that the DPRK, the Workers' Party of Korea, has pointed out is the ideological struggle is extremely critical for the maintaining of the socialist system and to prevent counter-revolution, as like we saw in so many socialist countries like Soviet Union with what ended up happening with Gorbachev and the overthrow of the Soviet system. So that's extremely encouraging, I think, for people to hear that DPRK is pursuing these ideological struggles against many dangers, such as would like to follow a capitalist road, those who like to ignore the threat of imperialism, those who would like to open up to imperialism. That's excellent news to hear that they're pursuing these ideological struggles. And I think it's clear that over the past year, 2022, North Korea, the DPRK, has really pushed forward ahead on many fields, the fields of providing to the people, improving the lives of the people, and the fields of defending the revolution, both physically, militarily, and ideologically. So I think going forward into the new year, 2023, North Korea, the DPRK, is in a good position to continue its socialist construction and pursuing the liberation of Korea, the national liberation of Korea and the reunification of the country.
Indeed, and I think 2023 will be an even more greater year for the DPRK, and we will see a fresh leap forward and more strides being made in the field of socialist construction and the struggle for national reunification and the expulsion of the hated US imperialists from the Korean Peninsula.
Absolutely. And as you probably all know, Dr. Dermot Hudson is the chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK, the KFA UK. And the KFA has been quite active. And would you like to give some updates on what's been going on with the Korean Friendship Association?
Well, in terms of KFA UK, we held 2 pickets this year. One picket of the BBC, the British Brainwashing Corporation, as we call it, and a picket of the US Embassy against the US war exercises targeting the DPRK. Now, I think one of the most important things this year is that we held the KFA International meeting in Tarragona in Spain with a big international participation, and I was very pleased to meet there a delegation from KFA USA, which is now quite active now. You know, they've got Telegram channels and so on. And, you know, I was quite happy to speak to the 2 US delegates. Also, KFA Germany has become active again. And we've established KFA chapters in a whole number of countries. So, you know, it's all go at KFA, basically.
Absolutely. And again, people should look into Korean Friendship Association, look into not only the UK KFA, but also check if there's a KFA active in your country. There's KFA in a number of countries, right? Besides.
That's right.
Yeah. So social media, you can follow Dr. Dermot Hudson on Twitter, on YouTube as well. The YouTube channel is Songun007. And the Twitter page is Juche0071, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
As well as you also have some books available for people who'd like to learn about Juche and the DPRK. Where could they find those?
They can be found on lulu.com on my author spot, which is Juche007.
Absolutely. So people should all go check all that out, follow this guest, and keep track of what's going on in the DPRK. And so, yeah, we're at the end of the year. I hope people have learned a lot about North Korea's achievements over the year. I hope this will encourage people to spread the truth about North Korea. If you're seeing this and this is all new information to you, I encourage you to look into this information further. Look into the social media of Dermot Hudson. And yeah, I think 2023 is going to be an excellent year for anti-imperialism, and I want to wish all the viewers a happy new year, and a successful and happy year coming up. And to you as well, comrade, I really appreciate you coming on, and happy
Thank
new year
you.
to yourself. And let's have it. I hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you very much. And I'll take the opportunity to wish you a very happy new year, success and good luck in 2023. And may I wish all viewers of Flame of Liberation a very happy new year and good luck and good health in 2023. Thank you.